Winter Playoffs, Mad Lions versus Koi. Then it was greener pastures for both of the teams. Mad Lions made it to the finals, Koi made it to the playoffs. I think they would have expected to get further in those playoffs, to be honest, as well. Right now, though, not doing too hot. Mad Lions, definitely not. But Koi, they at least got one win yesterday over Team Heretics. GB, what's your impression of these two teams?
Oh, I think for Mad Lions specifically, because I think they have been quite underwhelming to a lot of people specifically. I think a lot of people have been talking about their bot lane, but I also think it goes further than just that. It feels like to me when I'm watching them, they're going for set plays, but some of the set plays are wrong. I think some of the plays that they see on their screen is not always the correct one. We've seen some of the impulses. We saw it yesterday when they were playing Thresh and Veigar, trying to flash in and just make the Flay go into the baby cage. I think they just get too hypey at times, and they need to take a little bit of a breather and have proper communication, because both times I felt like they've had some good scaling on their team, but they throw it a bit away.
I think it's tricky with the Mad Lions, because sometimes I feel like I'm being unfair to them in criticism, because they made it to the finals and they actually had some really good games in winter as well, Yamato. But recency bias is recency for a reason, right? They're not doing well at the beginning of the split.
I think the main thing for me is just the bans and the champions they're not getting their hands on. I think Gragas, Rakan, Jayce are the bans that are really targeting the essence of what has worked for them. I think always when you have a team come into a different meta, especially after the winter split fatigue, you know, take a break and so forth, and then you have to figure things out. You know, the main thing for me is they've been trying to play the Aphelios Thresh, something that is strong in the current meta, but it isn't working. And I'm trying to think of what is the way you go deeper, but in reality, Carzzy is known for his Aphelios, Hilly is known for his Thresh. I feel like after the finals, it seems to me, with the very, very small sample size that we have so far, that it feels like Mad Lions has kind of lost their confidence. No more explosiveness around mid lane, no more, you know, synergy between how support is playing with jungle, and I think this is going to be a tough one to figure out.
And I think that's the big one for me, because Mad Lions used to be this team where they let Carzzy stay in his bot lane alone and you made plays elsewhere on the map. We haven't really seen that same link up between Hylissang and Elyoya. We haven't really seen them take over the map. I think if you want to take a look for inspiration, SK has been really good at doing it recently, but for Mad Lions, they've been struggling in the 2v2 and they're not elevating their plays elsewhere on the map.
And early in winter, we were praising the bot lane and saying, oh, this is actually a match made in heaven. It's working so well. They were being quite aggressive in the lane, then also allowing Hylissang to team up with Elyoya. You're right. It seems like the confidence is not as much there as it was. So let's see what they do today. Elyoya yesterday, rough game as well. Sheo had him figured out. Of course, it was down to the matchup as well. But every single time he wanted to gank, Sheo was there. And Mad Lions is still very much a team, I guess, where so much starts via Elyoya.
Yeah, my impression was it feels like the decisions and the plays that they want to make kind of reek of desperation. I feel like everything is kind of coming from a position of, oh, we need to make something happen because the game is going to fall out of our hands. This was a situation where Darius already had first blood on Fiora, and Fiora is in this position where she's really low HP and is pushing out. This was also very, very forced. A lane gang with the Vi, and they managed to survive. You know, some cases maybe they get the kill here and it manages to work because it's very, very narrow, but I feel like everything is kind of predictable. I think when you're playing the Aphelios Thresh, you want to create windows with purple gun, you want to create situations where you can manage the wave to get guaranteed advantages that don't necessarily need you to force when the enemy is playing defensive, and then translate it into Dragon and kind of play around the enemy mistakes more, less so than trying to just force and pull the trigger to just make something happen.
But I think today is a great way to start that newfound confidence as well, because even on the other side of the end of their opponent with Koi, their bot lane has been underperforming as well. We've seen them get to the 2 kill, we've seen them struggle as well. Szygenda was a bright side for Koi, but the rest of the map has also been pushed back. We saw it when they played against Astralis, and we've just in general seen them not have that same strength that Koi used to be known for with their strong laners.
In the winter, they also ended 7 and they still made a good run, but you just don't want to let that happen. You want to end higher if you are Koi. And a reminder that these two teams could potentially go, one of them at least, to MSI in London with their high championship points from winter. You can grab your tickets now. The URL is right there, axs.com/lolmsi 2023. And if you want some guidance on which days to buy for, LEC second seed plays on Tuesday, May 2nd, and LPL second seed plays on Wednesday, May 3rd. So maybe that might be of interest to you. Now let's head over to Koi versus Mad with Dagda and Quickshot.
Thank you so much, Sharks. Welcome to the Caster Desk. I'm Quickshot, joined by Dagda for the last 3 games of the opening week of the Spring Split. We're about to dive into picks and bans for Mad Lions versus Koi. These two teams have been the replacements for the likes of Fnatic here in Europe, 2nd and 3rd in the Winter Split, but frankly, not the strongest showing so far.
Yeah, not looking so hot, and now we'll have to see if they're going to be able to bring it back coming into today's games.
Just before we take a look at the picks and bans, I took a look at the all-time head-to-head between these two respective teams, and it currently sits at 18-19 in favor of Koi. 19 wins to 18, but it's heavily skewed. The regular season historically has gone Koi's way, whereas playoffs have gone the way of Mad Lions. This time around, this year, Koi, formerly Rogue, they've not had that power, that impact in the regular season that we grew so accustomed to. And I'm going to be quite frank, Dagda, I've been a little bit disappointed from what I've seen in the opening 2 days, the opening 2 games of our 2nd and 3rd place teams from Winter.
And my hope it built up a little bit when we saw them in playoffs, where they actually did look really strong. Comp and Trymbi felt like they were back to being that stellar bot lane that we expect them to be. But unfortunately, as we have crested over into spring, it just hasn't been that same dominance from them. Even we saw Trymbi getting solo killed against, or duo killed against Astralis. It feels like they're falling apart again and have to find themselves in the meta once more.
Well, talking about the meta and finding themselves, Mad Lions and Max specifically talked a little bit about creativity, adaptations in the drafts that they're putting together. I want to see what they do today. They've lost both of their opening games this spring. They've banned away the Caitlyn, the Ashe, and the Renata. Gragas and Irelia removed from Koi, so Annie still open and available. See what priorities they're going to go for. Okay. Focusing bot lane again, so Zeri removed from the pool too.
Yeah, it feels like Annie going to be the big pick here. We've seen Hilly bringing out the Thresh, but it hasn't been exactly the highest hitter, I'll say, for Hylissang, so I wouldn't be surprised to see them try and go something like the Annie, maybe go towards Carzzy on the Elyoya still, which is in the past worked out relatively well for him, and you compare that Annie with him in the bottom side of the map. But also we know Nisqy is quite flexible as champions, but we're going to have Szygenda bringing out that Jayce once more.
I mean, that Jayce, I'll say this several times throughout the course of the game, set the highest damage per minute of any player ever in the LEC at 1,444 damage per minute. So fantastic performance there. Will be backed up by that Sejuani. And let's just remind everyone that technically that Annie could go to that support role. And I think for a player like Hylissang, I wouldn't mind that. I like him on the engaged supports.
Yeah, and I think it works really well again if you want to go towards something like the Elyoya, Elyoya, going to go towards the Lee Sin. The big thing that I'm keeping my eyes peeled for here is Larssen Sylas. I think Larssen has been absolutely fantastic on the Sylas. And when you look, you go, okay, well, we got the Jayce that can go into top. We've got a melee mid now that compare with the Sejuani in skirmishes. And you've got some really good ultimates coming through on the opposite side for Mad Lions as well. Imagine that will be picked up, though, on the 2nd rotation. More than likely going to see an AD carry locked in here for comp.
Yeah, especially with all of the bans thrown out in that phase 1. Carzzy has locked in the Zeri. He's played 8 games of it professionally. Out of his 300 plus, only won 2 of them, however. We'll find out whether or not that Annie will go to the mid lane or support, or whether or not Koi have an inkling of what direction they want to take it. This will be a hover and a lock in there on that Sylas.
Yeah, I did think they'd leave it for the next rotation, because as you already kind of pointed out, Zeri gone, Kate, Ashe, Xayah gone as well. We've seen Comp and Trymbi bring out things like the Lucian Nami that could potentially be banned away here by Mad Lions if they want to. Even if you want to get rid of the Elyoya as well, make sure Comp can't go towards it. So I think going towards these AD carry bans is going to be really good for Mad, and really putting Koi on the back foot, unless they're planning to bring out something funky like Senna, Shogat or something like that.
I want to see how these comps also adapt, because in terms of synergy or play styles, you've got the engage tools there with Sejuani as well as the Sylas, the long range poke from that Jayce. And the first ban will be the Scion, removing that frontline option for the Mad Lions. Another bot lane ban. So Rakan removed from the pool. Where do Koi take this next step, and where do you reckon this Annie's gonna go? Nisqy, began the year playing a lot of carries. As the season has developed, we got to those playoffs, he went a little bit more supportive, a little more of those tanky champions, but he has demonstrated an ability to play both. I still just don't know which direction MAD will lead.
I still think you need something that has a lot of presence in that mid lane though, because one of the big things the Mad Lions like to do is still play through that mid lane, whether it's going towards something like a control mage or whether you're playing something a little bit more tanky like the Gragas. They still tend to have a lot of pressure in that mid and then leaning that into bot side. So I think you need to do something similar here for Mad Lions if you want to try and have that success.
Oh, I love this. All right, so Comp has locked in Draven. This will be his first of the year. And I think whenever we have seen the Dravens completely take over games, it starts early, it starts aggressive. This will be the 5th time that Comp has ever played the champion. In his 4 previous, he's won 2 and he's lost 2. And they've left that final pick to Trymbi's support.
This is something though that oftentimes Koi go for, which is where you're basically end up picking your own champion across the board in Koi, and it gives you a lot of opportunities now to try and figure out what you want to do as Mad Lions. So it looks like they will send the Annie down to that bottom side of the map, knowing that they're pretty happy. It's probably going to be up against a Nautilus, which can be a little bit scary if Koi want to go towards, or sorry, the Nautilus is gone, but Leona or something like that, that hard engaged champion there in that bot side to help out the Draven. But at least you now know, hey, look, we're going to be dealing with a composition that wants to dive in, wants to get in close. So something like the Taliyah going to work out really well here for Nisqy.
And also there's a lot of mobility there from that Zeri, the Larssen, the K'sante. Will be able to dodge, dip, duck, and dive around the engage tools, the poke that Koi are throwing out. What does Trymbi want to lock in here? And I think for Koi, how early can they look to get this Draven ahead? Lock in the Blitzcrank. Come on, Trymbi, do that one for me. Looking into that Annie as well. One of the champions that is a pretty predictable playstyle, instead going Soraka. So Draven Soraka into what I'm anticipating to be the Zeri Annie lane. Zoom out. How do these comps work?
Especially when you look towards Mad Lions, it's going to be a case of, cool, can we play through that mid jungle? We already know that you're going to have that push in mid, so let's lean that into bot side, set up for some of the CC that Hilly can provide to get Carzzy into a position where he can stand out as a big carry. And I think once you get towards that, team fights galore, you've got a great front to back fight as long as you can keep that front line in check. For Koi though, this is definitely a snowball comp. You want Jayce to be in a position where he's free firing on towers, he's got good control over top side, Draven getting fed in that bot side. So it definitely feels like a huge amount of this is going to be on Malrang trying to get in and disrupt this game early, which honestly is just where Malrang feels comfortable.
I mean, that's exactly his playstyle. Has the ability to completely ignore and disregard his own jungle to ensure that his lanes are set up for success. For Koi though, if they generate that lead, if they are able to get ahead early, it's the mid game that has been challenging for them this weekend. The rogue time, Koi time that we've seen a little bit coming back into fruition. So challenge for them, generate that lead and then don't make any missteps in the mid game.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has been down to their unwillingness to kind of go, hey, look, instead of playing off of all 3 lanes and just catching waves, we're going to drop a wave here on bot side so we can rotate mids, we can rotate top, get plays around the map. And I really think that when you're playing a composition like this, you need to be willing to obviously play around bot side, but once you get to this position, start to cross map effectively to keep that snowball going.
I want to see how they handle that, and I'm going to ask you to keep a close eye, Dagda, on the setups, on the lane assignments. I think especially on Comp and Trymbi, this Draven-Soraka duo. Will they be able to punish the Zeri Annie that has been put forward? Mad Lions, this time a 0-2 here in the Spring Split. I've got a little slightly depressing stat for you. Did you know that for Mad Lions, Hylissang has died 14 times already?
2 games.
In their 2 losses. Can you guess how many kills the entire team has secured?
Please tell me it's more than 14.
It is 9 kills. Mad Lions have struggled in their opening weekend, but I think it is fair to say we've seen some more variation, experimentation, adaptation in those drafts. The thing is, you still have to play them once you get onto the Rift, and they've kind of been steamrolled in both of their respective games.
Yeah, I think it hasn't quite worked out for Mad, especially when you look at, as you're kind of pointing out, the fact that we saw the Shogath for Nisqy coming through against Perks already and Saw, gave Ace all the time to keep his team in check, but also just scale into infinity and be an absolute monster. They were losing it in the bot side as well, which is a lot where those Hylissang deaths were coming from. And even then yesterday as well, the fact that you end up blinding Chasy's Fiora into Adam's Darius, which just took over, kind of limiting your options. The drafts just haven't really been going the way of Mad, which is why I actually like the draft we have here. It's much more standard, very easy to execute. You're playing through lane prio, you've got good, strong front line. This feels kind of Mad going, all right, look, guys, we tried 2 of these wacky drafts. We're going to go back to a bit more basics.
Keep it simple. Go back to an easier to execute composition. A little shout out to Johannes, who was able to pick up a win for Mad Lions from the fan club just yesterday. As far as this early game has started out, Elyoya on the bottom half making his way top. Malrang the exact opposite. And I want to keep an eye on specifically Elyoya. If you didn't know, it is his birthday today. So congratulations, happy birthday to Elyoya. I think he'll be looking for a little present, a little self-awarded gift to pick up the first win here in Spring. And especially on a champion like Larssen, he has the ability to do so, and he can do it very early when you combine with a K'sante or that Taliyah.
Yeah, I mean, he's 23 years old. Do you remember what it was like to be 23?
Mate, it's so long ago, I can't even tell you. I think Mars Attacks had just come out, actually. Yeah.
So you just run around saying Akak or whatever.
Exactly,
yeah, gotcha,
exactly.
Yeah.
You know, that's how that plays out.
Well, yeah, coming back into the game, already you can see Elyoya moving up towards this top side. Going to be matched by Malrang in these early stages, but I really think from Malrang's point of view, you want to try and separate yourself a little bit from Elyoya here, because oftentimes Nisqy will have push in mid, so if you end up trying to match a lot of Elyoya's plays in the early stages, it feels like you're going to be outgunned in these situations. So if you can try and find a moment to separate, you can actually get into these lanes and make things happen.
And I think whenever I think of Nisqy historically over the years, a champion that can move to the side lanes, that can assist, you know, top or bot, is the thing that really has stood out over the years. This year he's trying to add those carries and the more impactful champions to his pool. Right now Nisqy's going to be backed up at least a little bit here from Elyoya, just shadowing the lane in case Malrang shows up. Malrang's the player that really has to try get either any of these lanes really ahead. Like you mentioned, Koi want to snowball, Koi want to accelerate, and that's not something that we've seen too often. I mean, when you look at the stats over the games over the weekend, goal differences negative for both teams, 2.4k, 1.2k. When you look at KD, Heralds, First Dragons, they are really, really struggling at the bottom of the table.
Especially when you say that these are the teams that are second and third from last split's playoffs. These are the teams that you expect to be having these massive performances, but it feels like, again, Comp and Trymbi have taken a step back, haven't found that same success. We're not getting Koi getting these early leads through Malrang as much as they did towards playoffs and towards the end of winter. And as we already discussed, Mad Lions, weird drafts have kind of come back to bite them in a lot of situations.
So this time round, slightly less weird draft, slightly easier to understand and synergize in terms of playstyle. Elyoya looking for the engage. It's Hylissang that flashes, finds the stun, the follow-up from the resonating strike, and first blood to Carzzy. Beautifully done, and exactly what Hylissang is known for.
And that's exactly what we wanted to see from Elyoya as well. We were saying, hey, look, play around Hilly, the CC is going to be fantastic. They turn it on to Trymbi, make sure they're prioritizing that squishy Soraka. Now Malrang will just sit here to make sure the comp can't pick up this wave, but he's too late to the party.
I mean, really, really nice follow-up. Elyoya holding on to that Larssen Q to be able to chase down and help secure. In terms of summoner spells blown, 1, 2, 3 on the side of Mad Lions, only Ghost available for Carzzy. Comp didn't use anything there, as Szygenda is now trying to get some damage onto Chasy. Reminder that his performance on Jayce set the all-time Jayce record. He's going to be asked to step up here, but follow this, just great play.
Yeah, I mean, flash forward, Hilly doesn't even need to have vision there, just throws out the W, gets the automatic CC, and Elyoya having so much damage early as this Larssen, the extra buffs that he got coming into this patch, just making him so strong in that jungle.
I mean, do you like Soraka backing up the Draven in terms of the lane? Obviously, I think it'll dampen his ability to snowball and accelerate, but when I do think about team fights with the Sylas, with the Sejuani, I can see the value there.
Yeah, I think it's, hey, we're going to sacrifice this lane a little bit too. As you say, play for those team fights. Personally, I would have preferred something like a Leona or something you can actually play that all-in kill lane, especially when you're playing against an Annie. And he does tend to max shield in the support role, but she's still relatively squishy, especially if you can CC her up. So I think that would have been your target. But if Trymbi's going to go towards this, it's a case of, okay, well, Malrang and Larssen have to be our front line. They're not exactly the strongest of front lines, especially in comparison to something like that K'sante in the top side. So having that bit of an extra health rollover is going to be so important for these fights.
I do think Trymbi could have a significant impact with that wish. When you think about Taliyah's Weaver's Wall, when you think of the burst damage that can come out from the execute from Larssen, as well as that burst from Annie eventually, obviously in the support role. Malrang will be making his move into the top lane. I think Chasy just spotted him there. first attempted gank as both of these top laners are level 6.
I don't even think it's a gank that he's really looking for here. It's a case of Szygenda needs to crash this wave so he can try and keep himself safe. The biggest problem that they're having is with Larssen not having control over mid, it becomes very easy then for you to be able to take control over this top side with vision and make sure that you're always keeping pressure on Szygenda, because Szygenda wants to play far up in the lane but isn't really getting a chance to do so, and that's why he's starting to try and set up this vision. But ideally they would like to try and get some vision deep onto this side to allow these pushes from Szygenda to keep moving in.
I mean, Szygenda, very, very minor advantage in that top lane, is the player that has at least received one gank there from Malrang, who's level 5, just behind Elyoya thanks to the assist that Laure has been able to pick up. And for Koi, a little bit of a nervous start. This composition really wanted to try generate leads. It's now potential for a 3v3 in the bottom lane. Gonna fizzle as Malrang's moved away, and Elyoya's got that Dragon's Rage, has level 6 already. Trymbi is flashless as well as healless, so let's be a little bit cautious. If he finds the stun, if he finds that CC, there's another very easy kill being set up.
Yeah, it's a little bit harder though. Sometimes we see Annie in the support role running that inspiration tree so you can get access to that Hex Flash, but not actually doing so in this case means that he doesn't really have that big Hex Flash to try and go for it, but Nisqy's here.
Well, and Weaver's Wall will cut off the retreat. Flash used from Comp, steps forward, and Carzzy picks up the second kill. While that's happening in the top lane, Szygenda forced to flash away, gets over the wall. Chasy cannot chase, and that means Chasy will win that out to Mad Lions. They get the second kill, and they get access to their first dragon.
Which is absolutely massive, because one of the big things for Koi is, hey, look, if we can get this early lead on bot side, fantastic. We can start to move around the map, set up vision, look for picks as we start to roll over towards the second, third objectives. But if Mad Lions have already started ticking away on these dragons, getting these kills on the bot side, especially for this Zeri, it's going to be very difficult for Koi to come back into things.
I just really like the proactive play here. Nisqy shoves that wave in, teleports back to mid lane, and instantly combos up with Elyoya. Easy kill. Flashless Soraka, locked in place, can't do anything about it.
And this is why I haven't been so quick to just send Mad Lions down the river and say, hey, Mad, this isn't your split, you're looking terrible, what's going on? I think when they get back to comfort, this is what we expect from Mad Lions, right? Nisqy roaming, playing around that bot side, Elyoya looking great on some champions that he can have the early impacts. Now, Koi have started up this Rift Herald, but Mad Lions, after the reset, going to try and push them off.
In time, down to 1300. Hilly and Elyoya inside the pit. Trymbi and Larssen just over the wall is secured by Malrang, trying to pick up the eye. Whirling Death will put some damage down, and Malrang survives just with the skin of his teeth. And Koi will be able to pick up the objective and pick up their first kill onto Elyoya.
Big win, because Comp gets the kill as well, so gets all those extra stats. Nisqy now in trouble.
Oh, the Dragon's Rage stolen away! Beautifully set up and done by Larssen.
I'd like to say it for Nisqy. I'm surprised that hit. That chain had a couple of extra links added to that one. But now Hilly in this top side wants to see if he can get on towards Szygenda.
Trying to find it. Chasy stepping forward. All out is on cooldown. Stun has connected onto Szygenda, who is flashless, down to 400 hit points and made it to his tower. The hammer will put some distance away, and for now at least he has survived. There's no other members of Mad Lions making their way up just yet. And as I say that, Elyoya is in the river. Szygenda's playing a little bit risky here, but Malrang is waiting in the wings.
Yeah, Malrang going to stick around for a little bit here to farm this wave up. Needed to make sure that Szygenda was going to be safe, but Hilly, nice job trying to get the roam off. Just unfortunate that Chasy didn't have enough damage to finish that one up.
I mean, just like that, Koi are back into this game. They even out the gold. They got themselves the 2 kills. Just like you said, Comp was able to cash in. I'm not 100% certain how much gold he was able to secure. But that is exactly the champion you want to be ahead. He currently is 20 CS down in this bottom lane thanks to the multiple ganks that have come from the Mad Lions. And now with the fact that he's not there, they're going to apply this pressure. So for Koi, brought themselves back in. They've evened up that deficit. This is going to be a replay of that long-range kill.
I'm really curious what happened to the Sonic Wave there for Elyoya. I thought he'd be able to secure that with the auto back on onto the Rift Child, but didn't have it up and available. Malrang being able to escape off the wall was heartbreaking, just on a sliver of health, and just great rolling death from Comp to secure a kill for them. So now Chasy.
His next target once again. Here comes Elyoya. We'll follow up with that resonating strike, and is just too much damage, too much mobility. And another kill secured by Elyoya. I want to take a quick second to talk about these junglers because Elyoya, obviously the graphic is swapped, so just Elyoya is going to be on the blue side, not the red side. In terms of the impact this game, significantly more action and proactivity from Elyoya on that Lee Sin. But in terms of the games this weekend, has not been this consistent throughout all three.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that we see Elyoya now starting to step up massively. Also the fact that he's playing around that top side because they want to try and shut down Szygenda, who has that Rift Herald, make sure that he's not in a position to really get use out of that. But I think when you looked at Malrang's stats there as well, he hasn't been able to have that same impact that we expect from him, honestly. And I think it's been very interesting to see that although he has 100% kill participation at 14, there just isn't kills coming across for Koi at that stage. It's been very quiet, very lackluster in the early stages. And now Koi trying to see if they can get something back here for Szygenda, but because Chasy already picked up that kill, that early Iceborne, it's very hard to do so.
Very indicative of the fact that the solo laners from Koi, as well as Comp and Trymbi, haven't necessarily been able to generate their own advantages, create those leads for themselves. All come from Malrang, who is still 0-0-1. Showed his face in the middle lane with a number of members from Koi. Larssen will now be caught back, Seismic shoved in, they've dropped the Herald. There is some support here, both Chasy and Elyoya nearby. If Larssen sticks around, he could be in a little bit of trouble, but it'll just be a plate gank. And all of a sudden, it's now Koi on the move. 40 seconds for Dragon. They're starting to group up towards this bottom lane, potentially pushing some vision forward, potentially looking to challenge for this Ocean Drake. That does seem to be the case for now, as Mad Lions are backing out. So 13 minutes. This early game has been trading blows, still dead even. Are you starting to get a little nervous for Koi and the composition? Or are they still in with safety zone?
You're still fine. At this stage, it's Essence Reaver completed for Comp. He's actually in a relatively good spot. Like, yes, he's down 10 CS and a kill, but you actually look, it's only 300 gold because of the cash in that he got. If you end up fighting at this next Dragon, very easy for them to start picking up a few more kills. I think the big question mark is going to be more of a case of, can they keep this snowball going? Again, you got the early Rift Herald, yes, you got some plates, but I think second Rift Herald, opening up the map a little bit more, trying to give a little bit more pressure to Szygenda, because Szygenda's supposed to be winning this matchup, but he's not.
Well, right now, it's going to be a challenge for the Dragon, stolen away by Elyoya. Here comes Nisqy, throwing out the threaded volleys. The damage has already landed, as Hylissang has been dropped. Elyoya will step forward and take out Larssen, and Comp forced to flash for his life. Ultimately, a trade of 1-for-1, and the Dragon goes to Mad.
The fact that Hilly ended up giving his life for Larssen is incredibly worth it there, though. The fact Nisqy now gets to push in, because Comp has to cover mid. Look at bot side now, Carzzy also gets to push that in. With Elyoya, they'll be able to get some good damage onto this place.
And look at this, all out thrown down. Szygenda pulled backwards. Chasy finds the solo kill onto Szygenda. And that was beautifully executed. Every single skill shot landed.
And this is why I'm not always the biggest fan of Koi's drafting at these stages, because you end up showing the Jayce, K'sante gets picked into it, and it looks like Szygenda can't have the pressure he wants, but we're just going to have a look at this Dragon. Great steal from Elyoya, just managing to get the E and also the smite even down. And Hilly does end up going down, but oftentimes I find that when you're on an Annie and you're trying to play that support, it's worth giving your life for the cause. If you end up getting 1 or 2 kills off it, your support, trading up in a lot of situations, it's so worthwhile. And just a good example there, Hilly, because he gets the kill on Larssen, opens up that bot lane turret take as well.
And the complete opposite of Mad Lions' 2 previous games. Active in the early game, finding those kills, moving around the map, applying pressure in multiple lanes, and they managed to build up this 3,000 gold lead. Whereas up until today, the 2 previous games, they were down 2,500 at the 14-minute mark. I think when you also look at the side lane threat from Nisqy on that Taliyah and the advantage that Chasy's built up, Mad Lions will have a number of opportunities to push those side lanes. Both towers are down. They want to look to take out that mid tower, push that vision forward, and now for Koi, it's a defensive stance.
You have to try and defend this Rift Herald, though. That's the big one, because Mad are already moving over it. If you've got 2 side lanes down and mid turret is the only one left, it becomes very easy to play around this Rift Herald and make sure you create numbers advantages at that objective, especially when Chasy is just destroying Szygenda in the top lane. Szygenda cannot push out against this K'sante, which automatically gives Chasy move into mid lane.
I mean, yesterday, Koi struggled against Heretics as well. Early game didn't go their way, was put into a deficit. They were able to claw that game back through their team fighting, through their skirmishes. And I think when you look at the Sejuani, the Sylas, the Soraka, they do have some tools, but they've got to be a little careful. The potential fight is on the horizon. Red buff, numbers advantage means Koi will secure that, but it goes to Malrang instead of Comp. So tiny, tiny win And for Mad Lions, let's look at their lane assignments.
You do know it's bad when the win is you get your own
Exactly,
buff. That's
exactly,
when you
right?
know things have really taken a turn. Carzzy, though, might be in trouble.
Whoa, Vake is going to be able to hop over the wall. And I think, let's look at these lanes. Mad Lions, they're pushing out the bottom wave, pushing out top, and now look to be grouping around mid. You have to assume that mid outer turret will be a focus with 2 minutes until Dragon.
And this is what I was talking about, right? Chasy gets pushed in top side, fantastic. He now gets the roam down very quickly in towards the mid, which means they have the numbers advantage. Even bot is pushed out as well. So you've just got all 5 members of MAD on this mid lane, and there's no way for Koi to try and survive this.
I mean, yeah, Malrang committing that ultimate to try find the pick onto Carzzy means that one of the gigantic tools in the team fight, in the defense, is unavailable. So they lose 2 towers to that second Rift Herald. They've lost complete control of the top half of the jungle. And will Mad Lions be able to chip away that inner turret as well, trying to catch that wave, stealing more camps, pulling even further ahead, 4,000 gold up. Mad Lions are just running away.
And a minute until that next dragon as well. And now you've got the double mid lane turret down, fantastic. Reset, shove in mid, get your vision, flood it into that bot side jungle, and just fall back onto dragon. It's super easy to do. This is why a lot of people were annoyed to see that Mad Lions hadn't been living up to the standards. They had some weird drafts coming through, because this is what Mad Lions look like when they're just able to execute on standard stuff. They look so much cleaner.
And I think a lot of credit has to be given to Elyoya, involved in 4 of the 5 kills. I think he's shown up in bottom and top lane multiple times, has comboed with Nisqy on that bottom lane dive, has been instrumental in controlling Koi and building up the advantage, the gold lead. And right now, Elyoya and Hilly, they've teamed up, pushing the wards forward 25 seconds until that next dragon is up. Szygenda's got his TP available, but he's in the mid lane, making his way. Koi, do they challenge this one? They are significantly behind. It is the 3rd dragon, so they could concede it by a few more minutes.
It's going to be so difficult too. Elyoya already spotting out Malrang.
Well, Malrang gets jumped on with that resonating strike, level 11 as well. Throws out the prison to slow down the Mad Lions. The Ultra Shock Laser goes forward, and now looking at Larssen. He's hijacked away. That summon Tibbers can be huge on the Sylas. Shock blast damage connects. Nobody falls. The Mad Lions, they're inside the pits.
Don't have any flash, you don't have her stun. That was everything used by MAD. You don't have Sejuani out on the opposite side. Nisqy trying to wall off.
The Waver's Wall will slow down Koi. Larssen's got the flash available, but doesn't use it. Dragon is secured by Mad Lions and relying on those accelerated shock blasts. Szygenda landing the poke, but no one else from Koi is committing. So the 3rd dragon is secured. A potential team fight avoided. And Koi are now in dire straits. 4 minutes, 45 seconds until the soul is available.
It was the best attempt you're probably going to get from Koi, especially when Elyoya was that little bit separated, but they just don't really have the manpower right now to try and go against MAD. And as we said, MAD, once they get these leads, just better front line with K'sante, Hilly even being able to follow up with the CC and stun, great front to back. It becomes very difficult for Szygenda and Larssen to connect on to high priority targets in the back line.
Of course, when you think about how the champions are going to be playing, Malrang and Larssen want to be diving into the thick of things, going all the way forward. Szygenda ideally wants a little bit of time to land some poke, and then you want to hopefully see Comps Draven cleaning things up. The problem is they've lost complete control of their jungle. They've been pushed all the way back to the inhibitor turrets, and they just simply don't have the vision or the time to look for those fights, to look for those opportunities. They're down 5,000 gold, they're down 1 to half an item for pretty much every single champion. And Koi are now looking for the miracle CC, looking for the prison to lock down a carry, for a hijack from Larssen on, you know, huge maybe Tibbers, or even the ultimate from Carzzy to maybe find that impact.
And that's why they're trying so hard to keep control over this topside jungle. With Baron up, you know that's what Mad Lions are going to be keeping their eyes on. So if you can contest them, maybe find that pick where Mad Lions take a step too far forward trying to get vision, that could be your moment back in. But at the moment, Mad are doing just a really good job of shove waves, reset, play this slow, don't give Koi the opportunity to actually find these picks at any point in time.
And this was the period of gameplay throughout 2 previous matches where Koi struggled a little bit, didn't necessarily have opportunities, didn't necessarily play those side lanes as effectively as they could have. I think for Szygenda on the Jayce again, we're seeing Koi trying out a carry, trying out unlocking Szygenda in the top lane instead of him playing those supportive sort of tanky engage tools.
It is something that I've noticed with Koi though, is when they go for these drafts, a lot of the times it's like, cool, we're going to take our 2 solo laners and our junglers. And then the enemy team is like, on red side as well. So the enemy team is just like, oh, well, now I just know what I'm going to be going into. So I can oftentimes get good matchups like we see here for Chasy. Nisqy ends up with a great matchup in the mid lane as well. And it just becomes harder then for you to operate on the map, especially around mid lane. So this is where I'm kind of questioning why Koi decided to go for these picks so early. I don't mind the Jayce, right? But keep open the flexibility there. Go for an earlier AD carry pick. Make sure that you're able to keep that flexibility open and you're not stuck in bad matchups across the board.
Yeah, because it already gives that advantage to your opponents, in this case Mad Lions. Elyoya ganking the bottom lane, Nisqy roaming. And look at this, again, Vision being pushed all the way forward. In a turret in the bottom lane, being chipped away from those minions. Nisqy is in the top lane, so numbers disadvantage for a little while. Not sitting on the teleport, but I think we're just waiting for this next dragon. 1:45 until the soul is available here for Mad. And for Koi, if they want to win the team fight, how do they have to do this? I think comp picking up that Infinity Edge, very, very important. But how else do they win a fight?
I don't know if you can win a straight-up fight. It feels like you have to try and find a pick beforehand, which is why if you look at topside, Malrang is kind of saying, hey, look, tier 2 Terra is gone. Let's see if we can find a pick on Nisqy. Let's slow this onslaught. But if they're not really given that opportunity, and good job for Mad, right, to read it. Nisqy just shoves the wave and backs off and doesn't give Koi those little moments to get back into it.
I mean, when you take a look at the minimap, there was a lot of vision around the blue side of Koi's jungle. Nearly nothing from the top half. So by process of elimination, Mad Lions, they lingered. They've basically pitched a tent in the jungle of Koi, and they waited until there was simply no one to defend that turret. So 5 towers secured, 45 seconds on the clock is another huge advantage. And with this soul on the horizon, let's take a look at the summoner spells. Absolutely everything available here for Koi. Small level advantage for Larssen versus Nisqy, and Chasy's one up over Szygenda.
And at the moment, Mad just get to push in mid, push in bot, and make sure they're able to fall back to Dragon. But even if Koi tried to contest Dragon, there's always the opportunity for Mad Lions to go, okay, yeah, we just leave Dragon. We're only giving 1 Dragon to Koi. We'll just rush Baron. We can just immediately move over towards that objective. So you're always keeping your options open here as Mad, and that's why you can see where they're positioned.
Well, right now, Malrang has been stunned up, pulled backwards. 10 seconds to go until the dragon spawns. At least 1 bounty secured in the top lane. As Szygenda takes the tower down. The rest of Koi making their way towards the river, towards the top lane, and they're simply not going to challenge this one. Carzzy and Chasy 2-manning the Drake. Koi are not flipping it at the Baron. They are not necessarily shoving in to that turret, and Soul is just given away, picked up, uncontested by Mad Lions.
It's good assignments from Mad. They read, okay, Koi are going to give this up and try and flip Baron instead, but as long as Elyoya is in the vicinity, they're going to be totally fine. So Hilly with Elyoya now, resetting themselves up in this top side, making sure that they can keep control over Baron and stop Koi from being able to trade anything.
I mean, again, the vision, the lack of information, if the observers can just toggle to what Koi see, it's absolute darkness. They've been practically alone in the top half of the map, and they've only got a couple of wards down, but they have no idea where the Mad Lions are. It is so risky to move forward because they are at risk at all times.
The problem as well is that your only tank really is Malrang. Anyone else moves in to try and get that vision back, it's game over. You're just out of it. So you are heavily reliant on, well, Malrang has to be the vision game for Koi, but he still isn't exactly the tankiest. Yes, he's got that Radiant Virtue change to give you more healing, but it's really just not enough.
Okay, so Koi now under threat in this middle lane. 4 members of Mad Lions stepping forward. Chasy dives onto Larssen, who hops away for now. Larssen re-engages, forced to flash to safety. Hylissang's over the wall, drop tippers down, but Comp catches out 1,000 gold from the passive. Chasy stunned up by the prison as well. Malrang looking for another target, as now Shock Blast raining down on the members of Mad Lions. It's a 5 versus 4. A gigantic cash-in from Comp, and Mad just chased too far.
You can see the downside to Mad's composition. They're heavily reliant on Hilly having flash for the engages, so if they start objectives and Koi are drawn into them, fantastic. 2 big thumbs up. if you end up having a situation where Koi are kiting backwards, that's where you're going to struggle because you just don't really have anyone that can easily set up those fights.
Teleport is available for Szygenda. He's towards the bottom lane. Trymbi, Malrang, Larssen staring down the Mad Lions. Teleport being channeled here from Szygenda. He's making his way forward. 3,000 HP on the Baron. The Mad Lions peeling away. Malrang's hopped over the wall. The seismic shove has been able to catch Trymbi, but the wish keeps him alive. Malrang's stuck inside the pit. Flash is available to him. Gets away from the stun. Pressing, buys time, but it's Mad Lions that pick up the Baron. They pick up a kill, and they are once again in absolute control.
Szygenda has completely pushed in mid-wave to try and stop Mad from just getting their entire base off this Baron push now. Really good job from Mad to peel away, put pressure onto Koi, and force Malrang into the pit early.
I mean, we have to look at that once again. Koi, what was the call? Where were they going? Malrang hops over while the rest of Koi were moving towards the ramp to river. Left out to dry, jumped on by the Mad Lions, and with Baron empowered minions, with the soul in their back pocket, they are now looking to take down more towers, and this is getting even more dire for Koi. They simply do not have the fighting power, and at the moment, it doesn't look like the synergy yet to pull off those team fights.
They just don't really have anything left in the tank, to be perfectly honest, at this stage. Like, this is, okay, Malrang goes in thinking, right, maybe I can get enough damage down onto this Baron to actually get the kill onto it, but Mad Lions immediately turn over towards him, finish him off just after they secure the Baron. It does end up going to that 50-50, with just the healing coming over the wall from Trymbi, but it just doesn't matter. And now, Hilly does end up falling to Szygenda once more. Bit of a consolation prize there for Koi.
Well, he's managed to pick up a little bit of gold there. I don't know, I look at that and I wonder to myself, what if Koi had hopped into the pit? What if they'd committed to the fight? They had that numbers advantage. They were able to pick off Hylissang a few moments before. They end up going for that 50-50 on the smite, and it goes the way of Elyoya again. Elyoya stole away the dragon just a little bit earlier, and on his birthday, having a fantastic performance. I mean, you saw the team fight there, Szygenda just taking pot shots, you know what I mean?
I mean, the only one who actually managed to deal damage in that fight. The problem is, though, even though Hilly is missing, there's so much damage left over on Mad Lions. Nisqy, Carzzy, even Chasy at this stage with how big he is going to be impossible to deal with. And I think that's really what this comes down to. But Nisqy, going into the base now, wants to prove that Mad Lions can end this quickly.
Well, they managed to throw out that Weaver's Wall, open up the inhibitor. We'll take the bottom lane down as Chasy steps forward, Ghost available to him, and the all-out multi-man knock back, but all of a sudden, it's Chasy that's in trouble, forced to run for his life. Elyoya's looking for a target, and Carzzy is firing from behind, staring down 4 members of Koi, looking to pick up their first win here in Spring. Nobody's dropped just yet. The teleport's coming in, saving the minions. Baron still empowering them as the first Nexus turret has fallen. Koi have got nearly no ultimates to work with. Larssen needs to have a huge impact here if he wants to save the game. Trymbi is going to survive for now. Sidesteps as the turret is still standing. Szygenda looking to fire their shot blast from behind, but the minions are blocking it up.
You got 3 cannon minions here, though, which are now going to deal so much damage. Elyoya goes in.
He manages to find the Dragon's Rage kick, jumps backwards, and Tibbers is not going to be able to do a lot. The Nexus turret will fall to those cannon minions as Chasy is now the next target. Mad Lions are retreating, and is Chasy going to be able to escape with his life? There's a re-engage here. Carzzy still relatively untouched. Once again, zapping his way through. Larssen goes golden for just a few seconds and is taken down by Elyoya. The all-out comes from Chasy. He will drop in the fray as Comp is now running for his life. Malrang, the last man standing, in the Mad Lions turn their attention to the Nexus, turn their attention to the win, and Mad Lions pick up their first win of Spring.
Mad Lions finally able to get one on the board. A very confident win from them. Elyoya dominant in the early stages, setting up the team across the board, and from that point forward, once they got control, they were never letting that go.
I really, really appreciate the impact that Elyoya had when supported by Hilly, when supported by Nisqy. Those early ganks, the very aggressive engages on the enemy, it worked out this time.
Yeah, I mean, I will say Hilly was definitely separated at times. He did struggle to get into a lot of these fights. But when you already have the K'sante, Nisqy on this Taliyah as well, it becomes very easy that the second Koi tried to jump into you. All right, fantastic. We're in a happy place. We're just buying space for the back line, and they're going to be able to rip through that very squishy front line.
I mean, I just go back to the conversation point you had in-game around draft, around Rogue's approach in terms of revealing some of those solo lane options, enabling or allowing Mad Lions some of like soft counters or at least a more conscientious approach to how they want to deal with
Well,
it.
that's the thing that I find really interesting about it, is like the whole thing around Reg side is, oh, I can get a counter pick here, I can get a counter pick here. The fact that you're just kind of showing your hand so early lets blue side have so much more control, and when you're already getting a big pick like the Annie, it just gives so much control over.
It really does, and of course, when Hylissang manages to get those early kills, it unlocks the advantage. Player of the game at LEC, Chasy, Elyoya, and Carzzy. Happy birthday to Elyoya. A very dominant performance here in the early game, the first time that we've seen it in Spring. A bit of a statement win against one of their rivals, another head-to-head. Is all tied up, 19-19.
I mean, it's a nice way to start off, especially a big win for them coming into Spring as well. The fact they finally got that one on the board, looking good, it hopefully is only up from here.
Well, we'll find out a little bit later. Right now, we're going to head onto stage with the birthday boy himself.
Birthday boy indeed. Cumpleaños feliz. Elyoya. Feels good to win on the third day. How can you reflect on the first two? Mac was telling me that some of you guys were sick this week. How much did it impact the prep coming into week one?
Well, I don't think it impacted much. I think it was just a disaster week, to be honest. Just they were much better I don't think our drafts could have been better, and also our gameplay was just disaster. Like we were really not on the same page. Everyone was playing really randomly. And today, I think we showed a way better performance, even though we didn't play as aggressive as we usually do. I think we were just a bit scared, to be honest. Also, it's my birthday, so I need my win today. If I go 0-3 on my birthday, I don't want to spend my night crying. So yeah, we had to win. So yeah.
Third time's a charm. Birthday win indeed. How do you reflect on the impact you had in the early game here playing Larssen? I love the fact that the champion is meta again, but tell me about how it went for you.
I think early game was fine. I'm not even like that happy. I think I could have played better. Like for example, my Rift death was impactful.
Yeah.
And some other mistakes I could have optimized, even though I think it was fine performance. Yeah, it was just a 6. I would say a 6.
All right, a 6. Worth getting player of the game here. I think you're in contention.
I got it? No, I should not get it. I shouldn't get it.
Not get it.
I don't want to get it for this dirty performance. So like, just give it to Chasy, give it to someone else. I'm fine with it, you know?
Listen to the birthday boy. Give it to someone else. You guys played finals. You just had a 1 week off before coming back for Spring. What did you guys do? Did you stay in the office? Did you use this to take a break? Tell me how you guys utilized this.
So it's been 2 months in Berlin, and I saw the sun 3 days. So I had to go back to Spain. It was a must, and I went like for 4 days. I was just playing with, all I did was stream and play with my dog, literally, watch some movies. It was some good off time, and it was really needed. I think that this split has been really intense, and the fact that we played finals, it meant we played 3 BO5s in a row, which, hey, I mean, at least we won more BO5s than last year already, so that's you know, it's something.
Yeah, let's not stop there, though. We still count on you maybe for international events later during the year. I had a talk with Trymbi yesterday about winter and spring split, and the fact that for teams like you guys who make it till the end but not quite win the split, it can be very tiring to have this rhythm, because you hope that you're going to get the win, and then you back like 1 week later. How did it impact you? Do you guys feel tired right now? And how did you reset between winter and spring?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone for sure feels tired, but it's also appreciated, the fact that we are playing more games. It means our level is just going to be higher coming into international events, and we can hopefully make it out of quarters, maybe, hopefully. Now we will for sure. And yeah, so it's, even though right now it's harder because we are obviously all tired, at the end it's the job you like. It's the dream job of every one of us. So it's just what makes us better. We need to keep playing.
Staying positive, keep playing, and maintaining the energy levels. Yeah, thank you very much for the interview. Happy birthday once again. You can applause button, of course. Thank you. And that's all for us on this side of the stage. We'll be right back in a couple of minutes for Excel versus G2. Stay tuned.
Big win, because Comp gets the kill as well, so gets all those extra stats. Nisqy now in trouble.
Oh, the Dragon's Rage stolen away! Beautifully set up and done by Larssen!
Okay. But they stayed with low health, okay? They stayed with low health.
Look,
One HP.
Ult K'sante?
Look, Jayce, we finish, you ultimate. Okay.
Kill.
Yeah. Hey, Jayce is not there, guys. Jayce is not there.
Kill.
Jayce!
It's okay.
Guys, together, we're fighting.
I'm not.
Oh.
I'm here.
Kill him.
Look, Sylas. We can win, we can win. We're winning this. We're winning. Jayce, go. Hey, just play with Jayce, guys. We win. I shoot it two, shoot it one.
Jayce, the flash,
Go. I flash. Go. Okay. It's fine. I don't
Good job,
flash.
guys.
Just end. Good job, Chasy.
And Mad Lions pick up their first win of Spring.
Mad Lions finally able to get one on the board. A very competent win from them.
That was such a great game.
It was amazing. I can't wait to see what happens in
Right?
Pixabans in the next one.
Even the biggest champ needs a break.
What's up, guys? Guys, I was saving that for later. I called dibs.
The winter was harsh. Some flourished while others withered. The cold is an everlasting test. As spring approaches, some can't handle the heat.
Winter was just the warm-up.
Hey, warm up